President-elect Joe Biden delivers remarks on the Affordable Care Act as it goes before the Supreme Court. I'm Natalie Brand in Wilmington, Delaware, with the continued clash over the transition process.
The Joplin Health Department says the rising number of coronavirus cases in the city has caused a contact tracing backlog.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Joe Biden continues to lay out plans for his upcoming administration. This is KOAM News at 5. Those plans come despite ongoing challenges from President Trump and his supporters over the election results. Reporter Natalie Brand is in Wilmington, Delaware with more.
President-elect Joe Biden discussed the Affordable Care Act after the U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments on the constitutionality of the landmark health care law.
Come January, we're going to work quickly with the Congress to dramatically ramp up health care protections.
Is it time to concede?
On Capitol Hill, Vice President Mike Pence attended a closed meeting with Senate Republicans where lawmakers expressed support for President Trump's challenges to the election results.
Until the Electoral College votes, anyone who's running for office can exhaust concerns.
The president continues to make unsubstantiated claims of voter fraud and ballot counting abuse. Meanwhile, lawmakers are reacting to a memo issued by Attorney General Bill Barr this week telling prosecutors they can pursue substantial allegations of voting irregularities before the election is certified.
I thought it was perfectly appropriate.
What he did yesterday is unprecedented and unforgivable.
Here in Delaware, President-elect Biden says the transition continues and they have enough resources even if the General Services Administration continues to block the process.
Have you tried to reach out at all to the president? And if he is watching right now, what would you say to him?
Mr. President, look forward to speaking with you.
There will be a smooth transition to a second Trump administration.
Secretary Pompeo says the world should have every confidence that the State Department is functional and successful with the president who's in office on January 20th. Senior administration officials tell CBS News there are still no plans to consider inviting Biden to the White House until after all legal options are exhausted. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Wilmington, Delaware.
Joe Biden has begun receiving phone calls from world leaders. Today he spoke with the leaders of the United Kingdom, Ireland, France, and Germany. The U.S. Supreme Court's decision on the constitutionality of the Affordable Care Act is expected next spring. The Vatican has released its long-awaited report into the rise and fall of former U.S. Cardinal Theodore McCarrick. It exposes failures that allowed him to move up through the ranks despite repeated allegations of sexual abuse. The report says Pope John Paul II made McCarrick a cardinal despite knowing about the allegations, instead believing McCarrick's denials. Pope Francis ordered the report, hoping to repair trust in the church. Jacob Leonard joins us now with the first look at the weather. Jacob.
Yeah, most of us got off to a pretty wet start this morning. That front has moved out, has moved to our east, but behind it, much cooler temperatures than what we saw yesterday. Most of us setting right now in the upper 40s, near 50 degrees, 48 in Webb City, a little cooler, 42 in Yates Center. Here's that front we were talking about. Most of us got around a 3/10 of an inch of precipitation today, but again, that front has moved out, moved to the east. As we go through the next few hours, we'll drop through the 40s, 38 by midnight, then most of us will bottom out in the upper 20s, near 30, so we're talking around freezing temperatures for lows tonight. Of course, we'll talk about that. Take a look at the full 7-day forecast here in just a few minutes, Dow.
All right, we'll see you then. Some newly elected leaders in Ottawa County, Oklahoma promised change. Voters chose Stephen Chasteen for county commissioner and David Dean for the new sheriff. Both of them won with around 60% of the vote. Chasteen is a business owner who's been in construction for several years. He says concerns with the budget and a lack of transparency over the last year and a half are what prompted him to run, and that he wants to try to fix the issues he sees.
It's time for the adults in the room to work together for the good of the community. And, I truly believe that. And that was a big part of what got me into this race as well, is that this community deserves to be represented by people that understand that they are the CEOs of this county, not those that are elected.
Tonight at 6, we're going to hear from the incoming sheriff on how he'll deal with the budget constraints as he looks to add deputies on patrol and get a handle on the jail. The COVID tracking project says Missouri has seen a 12.9% increase in COVID-19 cases over the past 7 days. Joplin has had 548 new cases in the last 14 days. 293 of those cases are current. Joplin Health Department officials say as cases continue to climb, they're finding it harder to contact trace and to quickly notify the contacts. They're trying to reduce a backlog of cases.
As cases continue to climb, it makes it more and more challenging to get those investigated on the same day.
Tolkien added that patients typically know of their positive COVID test before it reaches the Joplin Health Department. Joplin School District has started the process for spring enrollment for virtual and in-person classes. Parents will be able to go online and register for either option for the spring semester, which starts in January. Officials say students who are enrolled in virtual classes now and wanting to remain virtual will need to re-enroll for that option. However, students currently enrolled in virtual classes who wish to return to in-person learning do not have to fill out the form.
So our enrollment is open from now until November 30th. And really the reason for that is so we have time to plan in December before we come back in January. So that timeline is really crucial. While it seems a little early, it actually still puts us in a pretty tight window to get stuff ready for January.
We'll have a link to the enrollment form in this story on our website. Tonight at 6, we're going to hear from a parent whose kids are heading back to in-person learning. The Jasper County Sheriff's Office introduced a new recruit, a canine named Arner. The Harvest Foundation donated $7,000 to the Sheriff's Office to buy Arner. There he is. Arner is named after Sergeant and Canine Officer Scott Arner, who passed away in the line of duty in 2002.
Quite a reputation, quite a legend in Jasper County as being a fine officer and a fine canine officer. So we're pleased to have the family here today to help us celebrate introducing him to the community.
Arner will not be on duty for about another 6 weeks as he goes through certification. The Harvest Foundation also donated another $7,000 to the city of Carthage for a thermal imaging camera on a patrol car. Still ahead, a new product reveal from Apple.
Apple unveils a new computer with a brand new brain. I'm Nancy Chen with a look at the latest computers now that Americans are relying on them more than ever.
And next in Health, watch how a small act of kindness is helping thousands of people who feel lonely and isolated during this pandemic. New coronavirus cases in the U.S. have now topped 100,000 per day for 7 straight days. Hospitalizations from coronavirus are close to record highs across the U.S. And with cases on the rise in 46 states, experts warn the worst is yet to come. More than 10 million Americans have been infected with COVID-19 since the pandemic began. That includes more than 1 million new cases just since the end of October. The uncertainty of the pandemic, job loss, isolation, all of these are contributing to the increase of people feeling depressed, lonely, and mentally unstable. But for thousands of people around the world, a simple act of kindness is helping them pull through.
I'm writing you today to let you know that you are not alone in this.
Robert Mason writes letter after letter after letter to people all across the world who are suffering in silence.
I went through a very bad spiral of depression.
He created a Facebook post reaching out, asking for anyone who felt the same way, promising to write them a letter. There was an immediate response that kept growing.
We have sent out letters to just over 2,000 people to date from all over the world.
That was the start of Letters Against Depression, a website where people can fill out a questionnaire, be matched with a volunteer who writes them a letter.
She included this little drawing too.
Emily Damer reached out after dropping out of school.
I admire your courage and determination to recover and live a better life. It just brought me a lot of hope.
Yasmin Flasterstein is a volunteer writer.
Hey KJ, I'm really sorry that you're going through a tough time. When I read your story, I knew I wanted to reach out. I also have CPTSD and experience both flashbacks and dissociation.
She shares her journey while helping others through their tough times.
I know how much a small act of kindness or a little word can change someone's day, from even feeling suicidal to wanting to fight for even another hour.
People will reply and say, "Your letter saved my life today."
Letters connecting people throughout 60 countries who are feeling alone in the world. It's completely free to receive a letter and entirely anonymous. The letters are sent to Robert, who makes sure the content is appropriate, and then he mails your letter. It costs about $7,500 a year for postage and other business costs. A small grant and donations help to cover the expenses. To find a link on how to sign up for a letter or to volunteer, just click on this story on our website, KOIMnewsnow.com. Diseases of despair, like substance abuse, alcoholism, and suicidal thoughts and behaviors, have skyrocketed in the U.S. over the past decade. A study published in the online journal BMJ Open says they now affect all age groups. Suicidal thoughts and behaviors for those under age 18 leaped a staggering 287% between 2009 and 2018. A new UK study shows severe COVID-19 infection is rare in newborns. Only 66 newborns required hospitalization for COVID during the peak of the first wave of the pandemic. That's less than 1% of all births in that period. But about half of those babies were from minority groups, which doctors say requires urgent investigation. The CDC reports that from 2015 to 2018, approximately 3/4 of children and adolescents ate fruit on any given day. More than 90% ate vegetables. Eating fruit declined with age, but increased with family income. Jacob Leonard's up next with the complete forecast, and a little bit later when the FAA might lift the grounding orders on Boeing 737 MAX fleet.
Well, today just definitely was not as nice as what we saw yesterday. The day started off with some rain, and now most of us seeing much cooler temperatures than what we saw 24 hours ago. Taking a look now at current conditions, 48 degrees with a little breeze. Feels like 45, wind coming out of the west at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Humidity sitting there at 71%. Taking a look at temperatures from across the area, most of us sitting in the mid to upper 40s, some around 50 in Miami, 49 in Columbus. A little cooler in southeast Kansas, 42 right there in Yates Center. Now, what we're seeing right now, a lot colder than what we saw yesterday. Check this out. 24 hours ago, most of us were about anywhere from lower 20s, about 25 degrees cooler right now than what we saw yesterday. So a big swing in temperatures from yesterday to today. Now we will work down through the 40s, down to about 38 at midnight tonight. The most of us will bottom out near freezing, some of us in the upper 20s. Most of us 30, 31 degrees for lows this evening. A Skywatch storm tracker, you do see that front has worked out. That front that gave us precipitation this morning has worked most of the way out of our viewing area to the east, but not before giving almost all of us a little precipitation. You can see that front that rolled through pretty much top of the viewing area all the way to the bottom of the viewing area. Most of us got around 3/10 of an inch of rain. Some spots may have seen half an inch, and in some isolated areas may have seen even more than that. But nice solid rain this morning. Future track for you. When you get up tomorrow morning, most of us, again, looking at lows near 30, 31 degrees. And as we work through tomorrow, we'll top out near 60 again. Now, Thursday is going to pretty much be a repeat of Wednesday, only a little warmer. So when you get up on Thursday, talking about lows in the upper 30s. Then once we work through the rest of the afternoon, once again, we'll top out in the mid 60s. Now, the next 2 days, going to be dry, but we do have rain chances sneaking back in on Friday. Some of those rain chances could last into Saturday. It is going to be cooler again on Friday. Saturday it will warm up in the lower 60s. We'll stay in the lower 60s for the weekend, and then look at early next week. Back down in the 50s, so it's going to cool off. Now, it will stay dry early next week, but again, will be a little cooler than what we'll see for most of the weekend with highs in the mid to upper 50s.
You know what? It's November. Those temperatures aren't too bad.
It was bound to happen sometime.
I guess so. Thanks, Jacob. Coming up, I'll look at Apple's newest computers and their updated processing chip. First, though, we honor a local World War II veteran. Keith Fiscus served in the U.S. Army from 1942 to 1945. The Sedan, Kansas native was stationed in Europe and received 2 Purple Hearts, and we salute Captain Keith Fiscus, a 4-state hero. To learn about other heroes or to submit a hero of your own anytime you like, all you have to do is go to our website. It's KOAMnewsnow.com. The FAA is reportedly set to lift grounding orders on Boeing 737 MAX fleet in 8 days. According to Reuters, the agency is in the final stages of reviewing proposed changes to the aircraft and is expected to complete the process in the coming days. The 737 was grounded globally in March of 2019 after 2 deadly crashes. United Airlines is making a bet that people will want to return to the skies this holiday season. The airliner is adding more than 1,400 domestic flights to its routes during the week of Thanksgiving and is monitoring bookings to swap in larger jets if demands call for it. The company is predicting that week will be its busiest since March, when the pandemic caused travel to tumble. Apple held its 3rd product event in 3 months, and this time the tech giant is revealing a new line of machines as Americans are depending on personal computers now more than ever. Nancy Chen reports.
But there is just one more thing.
Apple CEO Tim Cook's one more thing is the tech company's latest line of personal computers, all coming with a new brain.
M1.
The M1 chip is made by Apple and replaces the processors from Intel inside previous Macs. The company claims the M1 makes its MacBooks much faster.
MacBook Air is faster than 98% of PC laptops sold in the last year.
In the MacBook Pro, there is the promise of sharper graphics and up to 20 hours of battery life.
And with this combination of performance and awesome battery life, the productivity of our Pro users goes through the roof.
Apple's announcement comes as computer purchases are surging. Mac sales jumped nearly 30% in the last quarter.
You're at a point where every single person in your household basically needs their own computer of some type now.
CNET's Dan Ackerman says with people working and students learning at home, all the tech companies are offering a range of options for the holidays. The Microsoft Surface has a touchscreen. Many laptops double as a tablet, and Lenovo's ThinkPad can even fold. Plus, there are plenty of Google-powered Chromebooks,
which can be very inexpensive, $300, $350. You can get a perfectly good 13 or 15-inch Chromebook. They usually have touchscreens on them, which is great because kids are used to everything having a touchscreen.
The new MacBook Air starts at $999. The MacBook Pro is $1299, and both are available to order right now. Nancy Chen, CBS News, New York.
Now, while social distancing restrictions may limit visits to the bookstore, why not smell like one instead? Yeah, smell like a bookstore. Oregon-based bookstore Powell's City of Books is capturing the aroma of literature in a unisex fragrance. The scent is meant to replicate the smell of a beloved book. The 1 ounce bottle sells for about $25 and is packaged inside a faux book for preservation. Of course it is. A final check of the forecast next. The CBS Evening News is next. Then on KOAM News at 6, we're going to hear from the newly elected Ottawa County Sheriff on how he plans to address budget issues. Plus, a look at the latest coronavirus case numbers around the 4 states and how COVID-19 is changing the way students at an area high school are honoring our nation's heroes this Veterans Day. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. Checking back in now with Jacob Leonard.
Well, after a dreary, rainy, and colder day today, we're finally going to see some sun tomorrow. So we'll be dry the next 2 days, but those rain chances will creep back in on Friday. Some could last into Saturday. We'll see lower 60s throughout the weekend, but look at early next week. We're back down in the mid to upper 50s. So it's going to be dry early next week, but again, it will be a little cooler than what we'll see over the weekend.
You know, we've been spoiled the last week or so. I guess it's about time we see a bit cooler temperature. Still not bitterly cold, though, so you can't really complain.
It could be way worse.
Certainly can. Thanks, Jacob. And thank you for joining us. CBS Evening News is next. Of course, we'll be right back here at 6. In the meantime, let's take care of ourselves and each other.